with identity politics being attacked from both the left and the right these days, I'd like to ask, what is your understanding of identity politics and intersectionality?
Well, identity politics and intersectionality, somebody put me onto a term that I think is much better suited, which is identity reductionism. I found that to be interesting because whenever, as a leftist, whenever I say identity politics, people assume that that's a right-wing term or a right-wing way of understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
And to a degree, I understand where that's coming from. I think identity reductionism is a good way of putting it, because it's not that we want to do away with oppressed identities. As Marxists, as leftists, as revolutionaries, we uphold the liberation of oppressed peoples, LGBTQ people, women, Black and brown people. Those are the people who we want up front and center, because they're the people who have been very hurt by the global capitalist imperial system in ways that we as men or as non or whatever identity we identify as with, we haven't seen what other people have seen. So we want to uphold the identities of repressed peoples. That being said, we have to understand and acknowledge that the empire is using identity politics to promote intersectional imperialism, intersectional capitalism, to have more Black and brown faces, LGBTQ faces. It's funny, the other day, me and my girlfriend were just hanging out on the couch watching Netflix, looking for things to watch, and almost all the programs were like Black and brown people, Latinos. Like, they even catered it to us specifically as Latinos. They were like, here's this program on that. And like, the empire and the mainstream media apparatus is going so hard at trying to win over our people into winning us, believing and playing into capitalism, and showing people in these nice houses. Like, they'll have sitcoms where it's like Black and brown people, like a sitcom of them living in a nice neighborhood, going to a nice high school, and it's just normal life in capitalist US, and it's not reality. It's completely fake. It's completely synthetic. And the thing with identity politics and identity reductionism is that one of the things that it does is that it takes away class, right? It takes away class as the central and leading thing, because as part of the Marxist understanding of reality, of what we call ontology and epistemology, reality is determined by the material conditions, right? As materialists, we understand that material conditions determine ideas.
Yeah.
The material is the primary, the ideology is the secondary. And largely what determines material reality in our current era is the mode and means of production, meaning that, do we live in pre-capitalist society, feudalism, capitalism? Right now we're in the capitalist mode of production with capitalist relations of production, where we have this one exploiting class called capitalists and imperialists, a very small class of bankers, of elites based in London, New York, Paris, the centers of global capitalism. And you have this vast majority of exploited working class people who do not own means of production around the world, who make up the majority. And that is the current material conditions today. So that determines everything else, what we call in Marxism the base. The base is the economic structure of society, the soil. It's like the soil of a ground, right? The flowers that grow, the fauna that grows on a certain soil is determined by the quality of that soil. Is that soil rich? Is it healthy? What does it have? And that soil is the economic base of society. So currently we have very shitty soil. It's capitalism and it's fake. It's not nutrient. It doesn't nourish us. It's not good soil. So what we see as the products of the fauna, the flowers that grow on that soil, is based on capitalism. And so you have all these different fauna that grow on the soil of capitalism. But here's the thing, like, when you take out capitalism at the base, the soil of society, when you eliminate that and just focus on what's on top, the fauna and the flower, we only focus on that. We get distracted by that without being like, hey, we can have better flowers, better fauna if we get better soil. We have to change the soil and get new one and have a better one. But instead, people are just planting new flowers on the same old soil, and we're going to get the same results. We're going to get the same shitty plants. We're not going to have real advancements for LGBTQ people, for Black and brown people, for indigenous people, for working class people because it's all still working within this soil that has no nutrients. There's no future for that soil. We need new soil. And so that's the problem with identity politics, is where a lot of the focus is just on, oh, let's get new flowers and new colors and do this. It's like, no, as we do that, let's get new soil. Let's build a new system upon which that can truly flourish. And so that's where I come at this. It's changing the base of economics. And I think that we have to get to that point, because for the empire, it's super easy to keep people focused only on the superficial top level and not the base of economics.
Yeah, and that's why I really like the term being identity reductionism as opposed to identity politics, because identity politics in its origins with the Combahee River Collective in the 70s and stuff like that, and even connected to different disability politics and stuff, it was implicit in their program that class was an important factor. So calling it identity reductionism, I think is perfect, because it's ripping class away from that analysis, in which class was always a part of the analysis. It was the right wing who misconstrued and started putting out fake, I don't even know, these misconceptions of what identity politics. It was always connected to class, always. So I like to call it identity reductionism. It's when we reduce everything to just one part of your identity, not even your identity as a whole, as all the diversity that it takes, but just one small part of it. And for me, that's the part that's really bad. And to see that leftists are jumping onto these right-wing misconceptions of identity politics and propelling them forward is incredibly dangerous to me.
Yeah.
We should never remove class from identity politics, and likewise, we should never remove other identities from that analysis either, because then it just becomes class reductionism. So identity reductionism, class reductionism, to me, they're on the same playing field. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yes.
Well said, man. I think that I couldn't have said it better.